Lisa Frankenstein from Zelda Williams and Diablo Cody. It's a horror comedy about a reclusive teen building a relationship with a reanimated corpse. In this movie, we follow Lisa Swallows, played by Katherine Newton. After losing her mother, she finds herself at her dad and stepfamily's house, where she feels like a total loner. She's not too fond of them, and she doesn't seem to like many things that most girls her age do. But being a goth teen in a coming-of-age story, she, of course, likes to hang out at the cemetery. This is where a long-dead heartthrob, played by Cole Sprouse, is buried, and one night after a supernatural phenomenon, he is reanimated and basically becomes Lisa's pet corpse. So this movie is about acceptance. Lisa is somebody who struggles with social dissonance and only finds herself flourishing when she's with this zombie guy. And even though he doesn't speak, he does react, so their companionship isn't completely one-sided. Their dynamic was easily the best part of the movie. Lisa's funniest lines came out when she was talking to him. She also felt much more like a protagonist capable of carrying herself through this story once Zombie Boy entered the picture. Where previously she felt like little more than a character with no agency, introduced through some questionable exposition. At this point, she actually felt like a character that we wanted to see thrive because she had something unique in her story beyond typical teen struggles. And by the way, Zombie Boy isn't a total blank slate. It's not like how it is in Poor Things. Like I said, he mostly understands things, he just isn't self-aware. He doesn't seem to understand that his mildly decomposed body and him puking up bugs separates him from other entities. But throughout the movie, he evolves from a leathery corpse who can barely walk to a slightly more functional zombie. It was a decent enough performance from Cole Sprouse. I think that most of the faults in his portrayal actually come from the writing and directing, which leads me to the bad. There are a few big issues that this movie has. The first one being that the story felt totally aimless. Most movies, even when they have other things going on, they still have one clear objective for their protagonist to complete. Like Lord of the Rings is about a young hobbit carrying the One Ring to Mordor. Silence of the Lambs is about a detective trying to find a serial killer. This movie goes from being about Lisa hiding a zombie to finding him the body parts that he's missing to trying to get laid. Like she doesn't have a clear intention throughout the movie for us to follow and root for. One could argue that it's mostly about Lisa trying to get with this one boy from school, but honestly, for most of the movie, that actually felt very secondary. Another big issue is that the movie feels very confused about who it wants to be for. They just didn't seem to have a clear idea of what demographic they wanted to fill the theater seats. On one hand, it has some sexual humor, which is for adults, but also some teens, hence the PG-13 rating. But then it also has some cliche teen drama that feels better suited for younger teenagers. And then it's all wrapped up in this whole Disney Channel shell, making it feel like it's for tweens. Leading me to the last big issue, it doesn't seem to know what type of movie it wants to be. It's one part comedy, another part horror, another part romance. This movie did not juggle these genres well. It mostly feels like a Disney Channel comedy, but with some cliche soap opera and coming of age tropes. The horror and romance felt congruent with the movie's overall comedic tone, but I would not say that either of them elevated that tone and made it funnier. Those elements just felt underutilized and therefore a bit jarring when they were used. This is one of those times where I do think that an R rating really could have made the movie a lot better. If they had leaned harder into gory obscenities, it could have potentially been more than just a wannabe Wednesday that relied solely on its colorful 80s pop alone to sell tickets. Now, I'm sure that some people were wondering whether or not this movie would deliver a compelling romance despite its outlandish premise. I would not say that this movie provided good commentary on romance at all. That's not to say that it doesn't have a cute romance in it, it just doesn't offer anything in that regard. It doesn't try to make you think or feel differently about love. It's just zombie boy loves goth girl, and that's it. Overall, this movie was just a hodgepodge of ideas, themes, and genres that never felt cohesive. It was mostly disappointing. I wasn't really expecting anything too spectacular, but I was hoping that it would at least be fun, and it just left most of its fun, outlandish ideas to languish. This could potentially be a fun boost-fueled stream later this year if it doesn't cost you anything, but I personally would not recommend going and seeing it in theaters. Genuine question here, I have a new background and I'm wondering what you think of these two yellow hexes right beside my head. I feel like I maybe should sub them out with black ones because too much yellow makes it feel like a bit beehive-esque. Let me know down in the comments what you think, but I'll see you next week with my reviews of Madam Web and Bob Marley One Love.